Hey everyone, I'm gonna get started on this right away because even though you haven't seen me in this process, I've spent an enormous amount of time getting past some technological issues here. And I've felt very attacked and very, I could just feel it building up. There was like this really frustrated energy coming through. And I think a lot of it has to do with the truth, speaking the truth, committing to speaking the truth, unearthing the truth. And because I've been going through a process myself of really coming to an understanding of things that are so dark, they're unbelievable. So I'm going to read a quote from James Baldwin first, before we get started, to give to you a gift of perspective. Someone once said to me that the people in general cannot bear very much reality. I have never in the least understood why they should be expected to. There is a division of labor in the world as I see it, and people have quite enough reality to bear, simply getting through their lives, raising their children, dealing with the eternal conundrums of birth, taxes, and death. They do not do this with all the wisdom, foresight, or charity one might wish. Nevertheless, this is what they are always doing, and it is what the writer is always describing. The effort at description is itself extraordinarily arduous, and those who are driven to make this effort are by virtue of this fact somewhat removed from the people. We cannot possibly expect and should not desire that the great bulk of the populace embark on a mental and spiritual voyage for which very few people are equipped, and which even fewer have survived. They have, after all, their indispensable work to do, even as you and I. What we are distressed about, and should be, when we speak of the state of mass culture in this country, is the overwhelming torpor and bewilderment of the people. The people who run the mass media are not all villains. One must make a living. These images are designed not to trouble, but to reassure. They do not reflect reality. They merely rearrange its elements into something we can bear. They also weaken our ability to deal with the world as it is, ourselves as we are. This is a job for the creative artist, who does not really have much to do with mass culture. I feel very strongly that this amorphous people are in desperate search for something which will help them to re-establish their connection with themselves and with one another. This can only begin to happen as the truth begins to be told. We are in the middle of an immense metamorphosis here, a metamorphosis which will, it is devoutly to be hoped, rob us of our myths and give us back our personalities. The mass culture, in the meantime, can only reflect our chaos. And perhaps we had better remember that this chaos contains life and a great transforming energy. And I do not know, when James Baldwin was quoted as either speaking that or writing that, but it certainly wasn't now, because he's been long gone. And he was equipped with what he knew of his time, and there was already plenty of exposure, obviously, to the criminality of the power structures of our world. Excuse me, because my camera has gone. haywire. I mean, this is probably going to be lopsided. As I told you, everything kind of went wrong. And as I say, there's a deep anger and frustration within when we embrace and accept the truth. This week's card, Owl Spirit, number 43. You see clearly now. And what is Owl Spirit's oracle message? Owl Spirit arrives to remind you that the wisdom within you is informed by your keen senses and the wisdom within the consciousness we all share. Even in the darkest night, the owl sees clearly and is guided by every sense it has, including the first sense of intuition. Right now, your sensitivities are turbocharged, and you are receiving messages from all directions. Owl Spirit reminds you to be wise and pay attention to what's between the lines, what is invisible to the naked eye, what cannot be heard with the ears, and what others may not be able to perceive. With all your senses aroused, you have much knowledge available to you. Clarity will come as you sit with all that you are sensing, allowing your intuition to guide you in understanding the whole and not just the parts. Let your wisdom arise and be your guide as you trust the acuity of all your senses. Intuition is real and can provide the clarity you need to understand your situation right now. Your relationship, your finances, your job, whatever it is, you can see the truth clearly right now. Well, it ain't none of those things because nothing's happening. So what's the protection message from Owl Spirit? Are you feeling overwhelmed and overpowered by all that you are sensing? Yeah, I am. And you know what? I feel it around me. There's energy around me that is really intense. We'll discuss that after. Are you highly sensitive right now and in information overload, feeling too much and taking in too much stimulation? The antidote for overwhelm is to become grounded and return to your safe nest so wisdom can offer you clarity and guide you on managing the flow. Take a break to ground yourself in the reality of your everyday senses. Go for a walk in nature. Perhaps you could stop to lie on the ground or hug a tree. Or just stroll down the street beneath the soothing skies so that you can regroup and clear your energy field. Your wisdom and ability to make sense of all you are feeling and experiencing will return as Owl Spirit reminds you of your need to get clear. What I need is some TLC from some people who actually think and who are actually present in their lives. You know what? I'm complicit with this shit too. Why do I seem so pissed off right now? Because all I ever do is repress the truth in order not to offend. And I've spent a long time remedying that in core nuclear relationships in my life, and I've done it. Some of you know that. Some of you have been on the receiving end of that, and we have worked through it and found solid ground on which to exist, probably with a deeper understanding than there ever was before. But then there's other people in our lives that we just accommodate all the time because they're fucking bullies. Because it's their way all the time. And you know why? Because they're too scared. They're too scared. The cowardice of people's holding on to the idea that they're somehow going to return to ignorance. It's really something, to be that stubborn. We live in the age of information, and information is something that we have to seek in an educated manner, in an intuitive manner, in a purposeful manner. You know, we can all hold on to our spiritual practices of like sitting with our arms in some special position, whether that be prayer or meditation or, you know, putting on our like spiritual music and disconnecting in order to feed the self. But what's the point of all that if you're not actually doing anything to change the world, to confront the corruption? Now, I know I have a very limited audience, and I know that nobody wants to hear me talk about pedophilia and Satanism. I don't even like the term Satanism myself, because I actually don't give power to the notion of Satan. I mean, honestly, it's institutional. Satan is institutional. It's not an energy. And if it is, it's one that's blinded by the light, so it doesn't really matter, you know? So the King of Swords wants us to speak the truth. To learn the truth, embody the truth. And live the truth. And this is not the era of the coward anymore. It is a bright, beautiful new era, but it's one that has to be based on truth and a return to innocence. We have to jump the wall of protection and move into something that supports the advancement of the world, particularly at, you know, the worst crisis of humanity that we that we have ever seen. And it's all built on deceit. The crisis is built on deceit. Pretty much everything that you believe, that you think, in terms of which team you're on, who you think is the good guy, and who you think is the bad guy, and so on and so forth. It is so hard to do this work. But, you know, because we're so attached to these people. I mean, they're our heroes, you know? We've been taught to pedestal these people. The elites, people with power and money and fame. These are politicians. Career politicians. I'm not talking about well, I'm not going to get into that, but you gotta do your own research. But that wheel is turning, whether we like it or not. We're moving out of the deception energy. And, you've already seen a lot of this stuff going on. I mean, I don't know whether you've been paying attention to the news, because maybe it was downplayed, but, really when you pay attention to the pedophile rings, the orgy island, the sex trafficking, the people trafficking, all of these things. It's a huge network in the power structure. And you don't want to believe it? That's fine. Honestly, if you don't want to watch me anymore because you can't wrap your head around these things, that's also fine. It makes no difference to me whether I have 3 viewers or 20 or 40, because that's all I get. But what I do have is the High Priestess on my side, and all of us' side, if we are ready to embrace the light and stop sheltering ourselves from the truth in order to cling to false ways of satisfying ourselves, or thinking that we can be satisfied. We've got the 4 of Cups and the 9 of Pentacles coming out together. Couldn't be more clear. This 4 of Cups, he has the answer being handed to him. But what is he doing? He's being petulant. He's got his arms folded. He refuses to see. He's focused on everything but. And yet that is the answer to self-satisfaction, to fulfillment, is to actually embrace the flow, to trust the universe, that even out of great seeming chaos comes something that we have never even imagined, our ability to experience. And we can't get there when we are in this state, just 10 of Swords. I mean, man, pull those fucking swords out of your back and move forward, because that's what focusing on everything but the truth and what's on offer to you from the universe, that's what happens. You gotta nurture your own soul. You've got your things to do. You have to work. You have to you have a duty somewhere in your life that goes against some principle within yourself. Well, you know what? If you don't embrace truth in your personal life, if you don't learn to compartmentalize your own growth from the complicit relationship that we have to have with the social contract, with society, in order to exist, you're gonna feel like this for the rest of your life. Is that how you want to feel? I hear it all the time. This endless loop of it's attachment to the fear and to, even the presentation of gratitude in some people, I hear, is presented in a very selfish, self-absorbed way of oh, thank God, I am protected, You're not. If you think you're protected in that way because nothing's changed for you, just you wait. Because this is just the beginning. This year is going to be gnarly for people like you. The reality is, I know those people aren't actually going to be watching this, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just explaining to you where the frustration comes from. It's very difficult to exist in a world where you're seeing something from such a different, clearer, but harsher angle than other people in your environment, and they are so attached to another version of reality. That's our society as a whole, right? Look at the tribalism of our politics, of everything. And again, the stupidest thing about it is can't we see that that's how they want us, that's how the control energies want us, is divided. Focusing on our differences, and yet in the pyramid of power, we are the very bottom of the pyramid. Look at your government structures. They are just above us. You basically have us, then you have law enforcement, the military, all that kind of stuff, government, then you have the banks and the corporations, and then you have a bunch of other smaller but more powerful factions of governance. And these, well, there's no denying that they're evil, because they're evil to us at the very least, because they don't have yours or my better interests or self-development in mind in any of their plans. And the way we have to manage ourselves, apparently, it's through page of one's energy, which is we have to find some light in all of this. We have to accept the truth, and then we have to elevate ourselves to a place of fun. Because that's what leads us to completion and into this total empowerment. When I say fun, there's just no fucking word in English for anything, is there? Lightness of being. It just sounds so literary and mundane, but, lightness of being, which clearly I'm embodying so well right now, but my energies really were tested, trust me. They really were. And they've been tested all week long, and I have been not happy. But here's Spirit telling us that we build in community and in union with like-minded people that want to invest in us, people who see everyone as a part of a team. It's like having the stonemason, the architect, and the landowner. I don't know, who else would be in that? But all three are required. The others they can't each do what the other one does, right? And that's what a tribe is. So, I don't know how we're going to come together to do anything right now. Those answers are not available to us, especially while we're in our hopefully cozy prisons under house arrest. It's a choice. The lovers, it's an informed choice. It's an essential choice. It's the only choice. It's the opposite of the devil. The lovers are unchained. They choose that union. And we also have the depiction of the Garden of Eden, which, is where the purest of souls wishes to return to, right? Untethered, without all of that. Without that. See? Let's put them side by side to make the point. See? They're in chains. Yeah, I feel sick. Because if the things that I've been learning are true, and I believe that they are, I believe in justice. And justice will be served. And it's coming. There's a lot of information that's going to be coming in the near future. Prepare yourselves. I don't know. I can't give you a timeline. I can't tell you if these things are going to be resolved or, you know. Everything about the astrology tells us that we are on the verge of resolution, but I keep getting this card that I want to not take out because this is the feeling that most of us are going to experience as we open ourselves up to the truth. We might not be able to see it if we are so focused on the enemy being the wrong person. And I'm not going to go any further into that because you really do have to do your own research. And I'm keep saying it over and over again, but at the end of the day, I understand that this is a spiritual channel, not a political channel. This isn't really about politics. This is about human existence, which is inextricably entwined with spiritual existence. So I don't know how else to really approach it. I haven't given it enough thought. I haven't had enough hindsight to be able to find a better way of expressing all of these things. We keep getting the Two of Cups. I don't know what to do with the Two of Cups. I don't know what to interpret in the Two of Cups because maybe because I'm resistant because I feel so separate right now from so much. I'm going to do a quick Celtic cross because I want to get into something that takes us away from that curve. I shuffled all of these decks a lot before I actually went on camera because I could feel the energy and I could just feel that it was tumultuous and tempestuous and It's this lack of balance. Both of these cards just flew out. The Two of Pentacles and the Five of Pentacles. It's the lack card. When I originally pulled a reading before I went on camera, the Five of Pentacles came out reversed as our overall energy. So that was a good thing, because it meant that we were coming to that point of expansion beyond our poverty consciousness, finally moving into this. But it's come out upright with the Two of Pentacles. So it's telling me that this juggling, this bargaining with ourselves isn't going to work anymore. We need strength. We need to find our inner strength. Grow some fucking balls, or a giant pussy, or whatever you want to call yourself, like in terms of your power, based upon your gender, which I couldn't give two shits about. Again, the Two of Cups. I don't know what this is. Maybe it's about coming into that union within ourselves. Venus energy in Gemini, twins. Maybe that's what that's all about. It's just a reminder that that's what this is. This is the next season. The next 3 months are essentially until the end of July, when we come out of the shadow of the retrograde of Venus. We're going to be revisiting how we feel in union with ourselves, and how we relate to the choices and decisions within ourselves of the heart. Sorry, I have a lot of cards that are turned upside down and back to front, so... And, okay, the Empress I'll take as the bottom of the deck. Actually, no, you know what? The Empress wanted to make an appearance, but... It's a lot of huffing and puffing from me. Well, there's the Empress. Anyway, she came out bottom of the deck. She is the underlying energy. Two of Cups at the center of the reading. The Hierophant crosses it. Seven of Swords in the future. King of Cups in the past. Princess of Cups. Page of Cups. It's the underlying past energy. Nine of Swords in the immediate future. Justice in the present. Three of Swords in our environment. Knight of Swords in our hopes and fears. And the Five of Pentacles as our outcome. I'm going to have to take some clarifiers on a few of those things, but I get it. I get the gist of all of this. Can I get a clarifier on the Nine of Swords? The High Priestess. Okay. Can I get a clarifier on the Five of Pentacles as the outcome? Five of Cups. Yeah, we're fucked. Six of Pentacles. Okay. So, I'm gonna hammer this out fast. Underlying energy, the Empress. What does the Empress tell us? We have everything at our fingertips. We have the tools, we have the fertility, we have the richness, the wealth of knowledge, power within us to get through what looks as though it's going to be challenging in the collective. Now remember, this is not a personal reading, this is for the collective. So this is how we interact with the outside world and how the outside world appears to interact with us. At the center of our reading we have the Two of Cups. So we have this need for inner balance, union with the self, and if we are in a relationship with another particular person, you know, or there are key people in our lives, you know, it's very important right now to nurture and focus on giving some structure and ritual to that connection. I don't know what that means. I just said it, but I have no idea what that means. So I'll have to rewatch this myself to figure that out. King of Cups in our past. So we've done all of the emotional work on a personal level that has gotten us to a place of authority in our emotional wealth and knowledge, and that's gotten us this far. But it is in our past, and our underlying past energy in terms of what is beneath us is the Page of Cups. So it's interesting that we have the King of Cups as our solidified past energy, and then the Page of Cups as our underlying what is beneath us right now, which is, you know, on a time-based level, it's more relevant to the present moment. It's what we're sort of coming out of, what is still a part of the influence. So the Page of Cups is the Neanderthal version of the king, right? Without wanting to sound too derogatory to it, it's more like the child. It's like the beginning of that journey. It's like when we're not approaching things with maturity, but instead as if we haven't experienced things before in that realm. So perhaps because of the newness of this new paradigm, you know, I don't know whether you guys are paying attention to the way that you're experiencing time as we shift into this new reality, but things have changed. The past is like way over there, right? It's like bye. It's like being on, you know, it's like being on a ship and seeing the people that you are leaving behind at shore, or vice versa. And the distance is growing and growing and growing, and the next thing you know, they're just a little pea, you know, on the horizon. That's how it feels. And it feels like we've moved into something completely different, where time in the linear sense doesn't actually have the same importance. That's why I keep saying, who cares if you live or die? I'm not meaning that on a personal level. I'm meaning there's this sort of weird thing where we're stepping out of the temporal value system that we've been accustomed to all of our lives. Excuse me. It is very late. Because of all my technical difficulties earlier, it got really late. So, forgive me for yawning. In our immediate future, we have the Nine of Swords, which is the card of anguish and worry and inner conflict and fear and despair. Being affected by the cruelty of others, cruelty of the world around us, the injustices of the world around us, which, whether you're looking on the macro level beyond coronavirus, or you're looking specifically just at the tragedy unfolding as it is being told to us, doesn't really matter. They're just like reflections of the same. They're just a different amplitude of truth. But it came immediately clarified with a second card, because they came out together, which was the High Priestess. So again, when we're feeling those things, it's our bodies, it's our intuition telling us that we need to go within. We have to meditate, we have to realign ourselves, we actually have to confront the things that we're feeling. There's a lot of throat chakra stuff, there's a lot of blockage there. I don't know what it is, but I can feel it, and there's a purge coming, because we have in our grounding energy that Seven of Swords that we saw in my initial arc spread, when we were just pulling the cards randomly, and Seven of Swords is betrayal, deceit, lies. It's called in this card the Lord of Unstable Effort in the Hermetic deck. Unstable effort. Think of that. What does that even mean? It's not cute. Unstable effort, right? In our present, we have the Justice card. Now, we just had that full moon in Libra that we are still under the influence of. And justice is what that was all about. And justice is being served in ways that we're unaware of right now. But just you wait and see. Eventually, we will not be in the dark. But when there's so much chaos and confusion, the only thing that can happen is for people to gravitate towards needing answers. Answers that actually make sense. Answers that are based on science, data. I'm going to take a clarifier on this, but in our environment we have the Three of Swords that we saw before too. That was the heart with the sword through it. There is a lot of sorrow. There's a lot of sorrow in accepting things that we weren't prepared to accept. Go back to the James Baldwin quote if you need to. And it was clarified by the Knight of Wands. So again, exactly the same paradigm that we just saw before, where we had the Page of Wands coming in to basically tell us that the answer to overcoming the heartbreak, the sorrow of disappointment, of there's grief when you realize that things are not the way that they seem. You have to mourn the loss of the illusion, right? And we got the Nine of Wands, so that's lightness. That is swift, bold, adventurous, dynamic, inspired action. I don't know why we have in our hopes and fears we have the Knight of Swords, I guess. Well, I do actually. It's more on it goes towards the hope end of the spectrum, but there's always an opposite side to whatever energy we pick up on, and in this case the Knight of Swords really does represent, again, knights are cards of movement, and the Knight of Swords is very, very swift, and the Knight of Swords is a truth slayer. He brings truth. So the collective wants this. Wants the truth in order to justify the justice. And this is going to start manifesting more and more. We're going to see more and more chaos in our societies because the social contract has been broken by the authorities. And when that comes to the masses, I can't even imagine. Perhaps that's exactly what happens. You get the Five of Pentacles and the Five of Cups because there's so much loss. There's so much loss when you know that the people that are supposed to protect you in society have actually come and taken everything away from you. They've been doing it slowly for a long, long time, but this paradigm that we're in right now, that's a speeding up of that process. And if you haven't noticed, it sucks. But we do get the Six of Pentacles, so what helps us to overcome focusing on the loss, because that's what that is. It's being completely focused on the loss all the time. It's the person looking back at the spilled cups. And the Five of Pentacles, which is the poverty consciousness. It's the people that walk by the church and don't take the help because they're so focused on their loss. They've decided to take ownership of being poor. Community, there is help. That's what this is saying. There's surprisingly a lot of help for all of us coming our way, or perhaps you already are tapping into it, but we're supremely connected to our guides right now. There's got to be justice. And we have to do everything in our power, spiritually, to focus on attaining that. I don't know how you will do that in your life, but no matter what you believe, and no matter how accepting or dismissive you are of the things that I'm saying to you, which is, I have to admit, a little abstract because of my avoidance of giving specifics of information. Any of you interested in being provided with materials to explore, feel free to leave me a message in the comments, and I'll be happy to give you materials to observe and consume and digest. This was not what I imagined at all. And anyone holding on to the past, I'm sorry, this came very, very strongly to me, is going to have that taken away the hard way. Because it's just not, it doesn't even exist. I mean, it's almost right now with the energies as they are, it's like we're like stuck in like almost like a, what's like a Halloween type energy, you know, where the veil between the spirit world and the material world is at its thinnest, and it's like we're stuck in that perpetually right now. I mean, I shouldn't say stuck, but that's where we are. It's like, you know, there's so much energy that is, you know, there's people, souls that are so attached to injustices. And as we move into this new era of freedom. It's like there's a lot of like souls that are like suddenly awakening to the fact that they're dead. They don't have to be here. Something better awaits. You may not believe this, but I can assure you that I've done everything that I possibly can to tap into my own guides, and I know that we are just a cycle of life. You will be back. And maybe I'm speaking to energy around me right now that needs to hear that. Because when we talked about soul contracts ending, sometimes there are entities and energies that they're not clued into what's happening to them. I don't know how to explain that, but we have to release them. So do a ritual. I'll do it with you right now. Take a crystal of some sort and just take a deep breath in. Feel the energy around you. If there's anything attached to you in any way whatsoever, you will feel it. And it's not an ugly feeling, it's not a bad feeling, it's just you feel it. You feel something foreign, something that is not a part of your own soul energy. And they don't mean to be parasitic, but in some ways it can become that way because of the lack of faith or desire to move forward. And so you have to let them know it's okay and release with love. And release with your breath. To finalize that process. And do this several times. One more time. I know. On that note, I am going to sign off. I honestly have no sense of time or any ability to actually structure myself right now outside of what I just keep doing instinctually. So that's it. Signing off. I send you all the love that I can conjure up for you, and I wish you clarity and enlightenment and knowledge, access to knowledge, access to acceptance of knowledge. And I'll be back in a week, hopefully with something brighter to share. Love you all. Peace out. Bye.